to why do we even have a capital campaign happening right now. This began actually all the way in 2021. So in case you're wondering, where did Father come up with this idea, right? In 2021, we began gathering a list of necessary capital expenditures, right? So all the things that we know we need to spend money on to fix. And that list got really big. And some of those items were really important. And a lot of them had to do with the church. There's also a few in the Family Life Center and in our courtyard rooms. And so all of those actually ended up being included in this capital campaign decision. But so that was 2021, 2022. So that was 4 years ago. Now 3 years ago, 2022, we made the decision to move forward on capital projects by finance and the pastoral council. So they both said, okay, we need to move on this, right? So we need to have some sort of campaign to raise this money, to do a lot of the projects we need to be done. So then 2023, in February, we interviewed and hired some architects and consultants who gave us some advice on what our options would be, what they could be moving forward, especially with the church. In March, we gathered a steering committee and we discussed how to come up with a feasibility study. And so from that, we then had a consultant that we hired through the Institute for School and Parish Development. And so they have been helping us with this process. So then after that steering committee, we had a bunch of meetings, we discussed this study. Then we began the actual feasibility study with input listening sessions in various different ministries. We had it after a bunch of masses. I think we had close to 20 of them. And then after that, we created a Q&A document, so question and answers, based on those input listening sessions on what is the status of this? Why would we do this? Why option A, option B, all kinds of answers that we gave to questions that people had. And then we did, in June, an NPU survey. This is all 2023, right? So this is almost 2 years ago. In June of 2023, we did an NPU survey, and we asked the parishioners, based on the information that we provided in the bulletin in a nice report, what seemed to be the best option. For instance, should St. Luke have a capital campaign? Most voted in favor of that. Should the campaign be for renovations to the church, which are costly, or a new church? And overwhelmingly, the majority was new church as opposed to just renovations. There are other questions on there as well. So then in July of 2023, we had interviews with about 50-something parishioners just to get some feelers out. And if we started a campaign, what would they be willing to give? And so after that, we then completed our feasibility study, which we then shared with all the parishioners in August of that year, 2023, which we announced we would be moving towards a capital campaign, putting it together for the building of a new church. So a lot of other things have happened since then, all positive, like building this campaign, beginning the pace setter phase. This campaign kickoff gala is the beginning of the public phase where we're saying, we're so excited to announce some news to you. We can't wait to share it. And here's where we're headed with this campaign. But I thought, since we're in the middle of this teaching moment, it'd be helpful to you to just get up close and really see why we decided to go with building a new church. So it's time to take a field trip. Come with me. First things first, this building was never intended to be the permanent church, right? From the beginning, this was always called the worship space, right? Our worship place, worship center. It was eventually meant to become an auditorium or a bigger meeting space. This was never intended to be the permanent location for the actual church, our permanent church at St. Luke. Number two, there is a lot of roof damage, especially with the newer wing of the church. And because of this, we've tried to do Band-Aids over time that have tried to fix it, but they've never permanently fixed the problem going on, especially with the newer wing of our church. However, we've also noticed that there is leaking and water issues coming through all over the roof, not just in the new wing. Let me show you. Here we are at the women's bathroom. If you noticed, we have water damage coming all the way down the walls here. So after one of our more recent storms, all of these ceiling tiles were on the floor, and we looked up, we saw that there was a lot of black mold issue happening above this area. Here we are walking to that newer wing of the church. If you look up right when you come in, yes, that's water damage. That's a sign of mold. We also have some moisture coming through lots of the creases in these ceilings. If you look up again, you'll see right here, signs of water damage. Again right here, signs of water damage, lots of it. That's why normally right here, we'll have a trash can whenever it rains, just in case, because water for some reason likes to flow straight through this light fixture right here. That sounds pretty terrifying. But contrary to popular belief, we also have signs of water damage beyond just the newer wing of the church. So if you look up right when you come in, you'll see signs of water damage, even on the main roof line. Look at that. All kinds of issues happening as you walk through this lower ceiling into the main part of the church. So if we come back to this newer edition, as we usually refer to it, the new edition of the church, we'll see the third reason why a new church is needed. It's because in order to fix the problems that are happening with the roof, it would require even a partial demolition, even just to repair, right? If we didn't want to redo the whole thing, this whole church, knock it down and start over, we would have to at least partially demolish this area so that it could have strong enough columns to hold the roof that we really need in order to prevent the leaking to happen. The fourth reason why a new church is more feasible than just renovating is because if we were to partially renovate this church, we would then have to be compliant with our fire and safety code regulations, and we have a lot of violations. So if you were to look at the ceiling all around, you would see a few smoke detectors, but you will not find any sort of sprinkler system or anything else that'll help us to prevent or put out a fire if one were to happen here. That's terrifying. Reason number 5 why a new church is more feasible is because the main pieces of furniture in the church, so for instance, the ambo, the altar, the tabernacle, the baptismal font, should all have a permanent place in the church. There's one problem with that. One big problem here at St. Luke is that our baptismal font does not have that quality, right? Baptismal font, when we want to use it, we have to roll it out. Let me give you a demonstration of what we have to do whenever we have a baptism here at St. Luke. Reason number 6 why we need really a new church is because our current worship space has a lot of what I want to call basically sight problems, right? So if you're sitting in certain areas in church, it's really hard to see. For instance, oh wow, Our Lady of Prompt Succor. This would be a great spot to sit. Oh wait, I can't see. Let's say this space is filled and I have to sit towards the end. It's a little rough, right? Man, church is packed today. I guess I gotta sit all the way back here. Super far away from the actual sanctuary. Interestingly enough, in this new wing of the worship space that we're in now, it seats more people in this new wing than the actual others, like the main part of church before, right? So very interesting how more people are sitting in this back section, especially because no one likes to sit close to the front in those tiny pews. So more people that come to Mass are sitting furthest away from the altar. Very bizarre. Reason number 7 why a new configuration at least is needed for our church is because of the kneeling situation of a lot of the sections. For instance, if you want to kneel in these first pews, you would have to kneel on the ground, right? For all of these first pews and all of these sections, as well as the section by the choir, right? All of these would require you to kneel on the floor or just sit during the times when we're kneeling, which is kind of weird, having some of us kneeling and some of us sitting when we could all be kneeling. The last reason that I'm going to go over is basically, this would happen even if we did renovations, but we have a lot of stains and furniture breaks, right? These kneelers are breaking all the time. We have lots of stains on our furniture and on the floors. Look at this bad one right there. Wow. Right? So even our furniture and all of these things need a lot of help. And because of the sanitation that we did through COVID, a lot of the varnish has been taken off of these pews as well. So lots of issues with furniture and with floor. So for these reasons and for all kinds of other reasons that I didn't have time to get into, although we have lots of memories in this place, we have a lot of amazing things that have happened in our parish in this church, it's no longer feasible for us to stay here because it's never meant to be. It was never intended to be our permanent home, but also it doesn't provide much of a future for us when it seems to be constantly falling apart and caving in upon itself. And so for these reasons and all kinds of reasons, we have decided, and because you helped us make that decision by a survey and by many conversations and many interviews, we have come to know that this is God's will, that we build not just some new things, but to build a new church, not just fix a Band-Aid, but to give him a rightful, deserving, holy place where he can dwell and where we can come and worship.